Yesterday we were discussing about indexes, right? So indexes are used to retrieve the query. Indexes are used to speed up the query retrieval performance, and basically, indexes will give bad performance for data insertion. I think yesterday I didn't tell you this point. So indexes will give bad performance for data insertion, and if you are inserting any data into a table which is having indexes, if it is taking more time, if the insert query is taking more time, then what you have to do is, if it is running within less time, then fine, no need to do anything. If let's say if it is running more time, let's say I have a select statement insert into, which is emp, all right, and then I have a query called select star from employee. Let's say I have written this insert statement, but it was running within 5 minutes, but after creating indexes on this table, yesterday we have created indexes on this emp table, right? If this insert statement is taking longer than the usual time, then what we need to do is we have to drop the indexes first. So before insert statement, try to use drop index. How to drop index, guys? So like drop table name, drop index name. That's it. Index will be dropped. So it is asking to specify table name on emp, right? Command completed successfully. If you refresh this table, you cannot see the index now, right? So do this before inserting a data, drop the index and then insert the data, then again try to recreate the index here. That's it. So follow these steps when you're writing a, when you are experiencing more time for insert statement, if the table is having indexes. First drop the indexes with the index name and then insert the data into table, and then once you are done with the inserting a data, then create index again so that it will give better performance. Okay, any concerns here? See, if you right click here on the index, we can see two options here: rebuild and then reorganize, right? So when will we use rebuild and when we use reorganize is, a rebuilding is nothing but it internally it will try to drop and recreate the indexes backgroundly. So when you have to use it is, if let's say you have created indexes and still the query is taking time, or the result set is not appropriate, or then it is not in the usual time, right? So if you can rebuild it, it will give better performance. Or sometimes once you insert a data into the table, once after inserting a data into the table, sometimes the data will not sort automatically, even though if it is having indexes. As I told you, if you create a cluster index, by default the physical data structure will be altered, right? So once you insert data on a index table, if still data is not arranged in proper order, then we have to go for reorganize. So it will shuffle the data again within the index table, and then it will try to improve the performance. So these are the two differences you have to remember. Mostly they will not ask you interview, but if they'll ask you, you have to answer this way: rebuild and then reorganize. So as part of indexes, we'll get questions on difference between cluster index versus non-cluster index, right? I have told you few points at the beginning on these indexes, right? So you can cover them for the differences between these two, and then differences between index scan versus index seek, and difference between index rebuild and reorganize. But this one they'll rarely ask about it. Index rebuild and then reorganize. Okay, very rare they'll ask. So to create non-cluster index in any field, see guys, first how to identify whether you need to create in cluster index or non-cluster index. Any idea? No idea. Okay, let's take an example of this one only here. Okay, if you have this query, if you are executing data, right? So sometimes you may also filter the data, right? So where a dot e salary greater than or equals to or less than or equals to 30,000. You want to retrieve whose salary is less than or equals to 30,000, right? So in this case, guys, on which columns, which index will create? See if I highlight it, and then if you go for actual execution plan and execute it, index scan is going on, right? How to make that to index seek? Or forget about that, how to make that index seek or index scan, but assume on which table, which columns you will create cluster index or non-cluster. How do you decide? Right? See, as I told you, only one cluster index we can create onto a table. First, you can create cluster index on these unique fields, which is employee IDs on both the tables, right? And then on the same table, if you are using any filters, where class filters, right? Here you are using where class filter and employee salary. Create a non-cluster index on this where class filtered column, right? So create non-cluster index, and then the index name is NIX underscore EMP underscore ESAL employee salary on EMP of ESAL. That's it. So refresh. You can see non-cluster index, right? So now if I try to execute this one, still index scan is going on. Why? Do we have index on employee table here? We have it, right? And one more thing, if you have created a primary key and by default index will create, right? Cluster index. Can we create again cluster index on this table, on this field? Let's try it out, okay? So I'm creating a cluster index, create cluster index, CIX underscore, table name underscore column name. My table name is employee underscore EID on employee of EID, right? What it is throwing. So this will be interview question, guys. If you have created a primary key onto a table, by default, a cluster index will be created, right? But that is through primary key. But if you try to create again, the cluster index, will it allow or not? They'll try to confuse you, right? So the answer is it will not create another. So there is an existing cluster index on the table. You should not create it again, right? And when coming to the index seek and index ARM over here, if data is less, obviously it will go for index scan. Indexes will give better performance when data is huge. So if you operate on the huge volume of data, obviously if you create indexes on the join fields and also the where clause filters, it will go for index seek, right? Any questions? No. See, this is very important concept, indexes. Interview point of view or in real time also they'll ask you. I mean in interviews, right? Yeah. So the next topic is I'll start with stored procedures. Stored procedures. See, stored procedures basically in real time, 80% of the work will do with stored procedure only in SQL Server. Why? Because stored procedures, whatever the code or whatever the functionalities, concepts which we learned till now, all those concepts we will implement in the stored procedure. Okay. So basically a stored procedure is nothing but a set of instructions. We club it together and then we'll create a stored procedure. See, if let's say if you're running any select statement or maybe inserting a data into table. So let's say you have a query called insert into a table name, which is EMP, or maybe I'll just take employee here, insert into employee, and then we need to mention the column names, right? So usually in real time, try to maintain giving the column names instead of straight away giving insert into employee name, right? So for this table, we have columns, employee ID, and then employee name and employee age, right? So these are the three columns I have, and then I have select for employee ID, EID, and E name. Number of columns should be same, right? And then E age from employee, right? So this is my insert query which I'm trying to execute. See, now it took around some 1 or 2 minutes to me, right? So every time if I want to insert data, do I need to prepare this query again? Or do I need to store it in my local desktop in a file, a text file? See, daily you need to perform the same operation. So you need to run daily this one at, let's say 10 a.m. in the morning. So do you need to spend again every day 2 minutes to write this code, and then you can execute it, right? But what happens, so once you create any select statements or insert statement, any SQL statement, first thing it will go for when you execute it, it will go for parsing, which is the syntax. syntax check whether the syntax is correct or not, right? If the syntax is wrong, it will throw error, and then again we need to correct the syntaxes. So first thing, when you execute a query, it will go for syntax check, and then it will store the execution plan in the memory. See, execution plan in the sense, backgroundly SQL Server will try to make the best possible way to execute this code. So that is execution plan. So backgroundly it will try to do execution plan, and then it will save it in the, oh no, it will not save it, but usually it will do backgroundly execution plan, right? So and then it will insert the data. So these are the two things background it will perform, right? Every time if you execute a query, syntax check will check, and also the execution plan will be prepared every time. So for that, at least it will take some fraction of seconds, at least the system time. So to avoid that, we can create a stored procedure, and we can keep these SQL statements within a stored procedure, so that for the first time, if you execute a stored procedure for the first time, it will go for syntax check, and then the execution plan, whatever it is, it will perform backgroundly. All those things will be done first, only for the first time, and second time onwards, it will not check all those stuff. Why? Because at the time of creation and executing for the first time, it has checked it once, and from next time onwards, it will not perform the same operation until unless if there are any changes to the stored procedure code, right? So basically stored procedures are used to store the code in it, and then we can reuse that stored procedure code n number of times by n number of developers. Let's say here this insertment you have written here, you can see only by you, or if you saved it in your local desktop, you only can view it. But if you create a stored procedure and save it in the database, all of your teammates also can use this. So the syntax to create a stored procedure is create procedure name. So basically, if you expand the procedure part here, programmability, stored procedures will reside under programmability here on each and every database. Under October 2021, I'm expanding the programmability, and here you can see the system stored procedures are started with sp underscore, right? So all the system stored procedures will start with sp underscore, and then user defined stored procedures will start with UESP, the naming convention, right? So you can see here system defined stored procedures, but if you create user defined stored procedure, better always start with USP. USP in the sense user defined stored procedure, and then the naming convention will be what is your destination, or what is the functionality which you are writing here. Try to give it the meaningful name. So let's say I'm inserting data into employee table, right? Underscore, I'll just mention insert. The name makes sense, right? So it is user defined function, and then I'm inserting data into a employee table, right? And then as begin. So the stored procedure statement should enclose within begin and end statements. This is not mandatory, but try to make use of it. If you don't use begin and end also, we can create stored procedure. But it's better to follow always the syntax properly, begin and end. Okay. And within this begin and end, you can write your any SQL statements. See here, first I'm implementing here insert statement, and then after that you can write delete code also, and then you can create temp table here, right? So like this n number of operations you can perform within a stored procedure, right? And then see, this is my stored procedure code, and for the first time, if you refresh here, you cannot see them, you cannot see it, right? Only if you expand system stored procedure, you can see already added system defined stored procedures here. See, now I'll highlight it and then execute. Command completed successfully. If I refresh it, you can see the stored procedure here. So now what happens, if any of your teammates also want to utilize this stored procedure, he can connect to the server. Guys, in real time, basically it will be the shared servers. See here Lenovo-PC is my server here, but in real time it is a network server. So all of your teammates or who have access to the server, they can log in. So we all will be using the shared servers only in the real time. Let's say Lenovo-PC is there, the server will be utilized by, let's say if a team of 10, all the 10 people will be using this server. Okay, either it may be dev or UAT or production. I'll tell you what is this dev server and UAT server and then production server later, right? So each server will be the network servers. So that will be having access to multiple developers. So now your teammate also can log into the server and he can utilize this stored procedure, whatever we have created. And whatever your teammate has created, any objects like tables or views or stored procedures, whatever it is, he can also view and then he can also access them, right? See now, instead of executing this insert and select code manually, we can just execute the stored procedure now. You no need to spend again time for query preparation. So already we have saved, we have executed a stored procedure. It will automatically save in the database under the stored procedures. So until unless you drop it, it will be exist in the database. Clear? So this will be there in the database until unless you drop it. If you did not drop, it will be there, right? So to execute a stored procedure, you need to use exec space stored procedure name. Zeros effect, right? So if you execute a stored procedure, backgroundly, whatever the code the stored procedure holds, it will get executed. This is the code which you have written in the stored procedure, right? So it will get executed and then 3 rows are inserted into the table. Any questions here, guys? The stored procedure basic.
Amar, can you explain the stored procedure once again?
Which
And
part, which
USP.
part you have got? What
No.
is the stored procedure?
Okay. At the starting, you said like USP. Is it underscore or space?
It is underscore.
Okay.
In
From
naming
there on,
convention, see, it's not no need to use underscore only. Maybe you can use without underscore also. But why we use underscore is just to separate the keywords. That's it. And also, guys, you should not give the gap. For your understanding, you should not give the gap while creating a table. If you are giving a gap, it won't accept. Then in that case, you have to use the square braces. Clear? Always don't give gaps in between the words in SQL Server. Okay, try to use underscore or whatever it is. Yeah, go ahead, Karthik.
from the starting, as you said, install into. But in the starting, you said that there will SQL is a case sense, right?
Insensitive.
Insensitive.
Yeah.
So, but all the things you codes you are writing in capitals, right? Is it mandate?
Good observation. Yes. So not mandatory. See, these are the keywords. If you observe here, whatever I am writing in the caps letters, those are the keywords, default keywords in SQL Server, right? So you can see those keywords are in blue color, right? See, the system defined keywords will be it's always better to write in the caps so that it will be highlighted, right? So that's my practice of writing a code. And if you practice it the same way, it will be good. The code viewability will be good. That's it. Other than that, there is no intention behind that. You can also write within lowercase also.
One minute. Yesterday I was trying for join commands, but it was not taking lowercase. It was only accepting higher cases.
Join.
Yeah, all the join codes I was trying.
You meant to say
Left
the
outer join.
join. Okay. See
Yeah,
here I
left
have
outer join.
written inner join, right? So if you
Yeah.
use left join like this, it is not accepting. I don't think
No, it's not accepting.
it accepted, right?
But for me, it was not accepting. That's why I had changed everything to capitals again.
I don't know. Maybe you have turned on some settings. I don't know. Are you using SQL Server or Oracle? Which software you are using?
SQL Server, the software which you had sent me in the link.
Okay, that is strange. Guys, anyone facing the same issue?
No, sir. No.
No, it won't be Karthik. I think you have to
Okay,
check
I'll
your
check it
options.
out once again.
Maybe you can check in the Google also. So why am I
Yeah.
getting the error if I use the joins in lowercase? Maybe some settings you might have
Okay.
changed or default while installing some issues. It should not.
Okay.
SQL is a case insensitive.
Okay.
But why I'm using CapCenter here is just to make keywords highlighted. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amar.
Any other questions from anyone? Guys, in real time, we'll be writing the stored procedures only, the lengthy stored procedures. And why? Because see, sometimes we'll create a temp tables also here, right? First, we'll create a temp table and we'll insert data into temp table and we'll create indexes on the temp table. And again, we'll join back the temp table in the main select statement, right? So why we need to use a temp table is if the query is taking more time, the performance point of view, right? I'll tell those points, okay? And then
Amar, one more doubt. Can I?
yeah.
Yeah, in the insert into, you wrote EMP ID, but in the bottom select you wrote EID. Will that be okay?
What do you think? Why did I wrote the say that way? Both the table names are same,
Yes.
no, right?
Yes.
This is employee and then this is employee.
Employee. Okay.
So in this table, the column names are named this way, and this table, the column names are like this. Simple.
Okay. 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 I did not check the bottom one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. What I was telling. Yeah. See, basically, if you're writing any stored procedure, this is the plain stored procedure which I explained you. There is a stored procedure. If let's say if you want to return a select, if you want to return a data set or data out of any stored procedure, then you can also write a select statement also within a stored procedure. So no need to be always a insert or whatever it is. So now we'll try to pass one input value to the stored procedure and then we'll try to fetch the output from the stored procedure. Okay. So let me write one more stored procedure here, which will return the value instead of inserting, right? So let's see if we take an example of this table. Okay. See, based on the employee age, I want to retrieve the data from this table, right? So every time I want to perform that operation, so instead of writing a select statement, I'll create a stored procedure, right? So create procedure, procedure name, and then employee underscore. I'll just say retrieve, retrieve in the sense selecting, right? So as begin and then end. So here, while selecting data from a table, I just need to write the column names. I'll just use column names, guys, instead of star. Always try to use column names instead of star. MP, H, and then from employee, where employee age equals to, I want to pass here the variable. I don't want to hard code the value. See, every time, each and every time I want to see the data for different age, guys. Okay. See, whatever the value which I pass for the age, only those values I should get it. Equals to And here for the stored procedures, we have two types of stored procedures, right? One is input parameterized and the other one is output parameterized stored procedure. SP stored procedure, right? So input parameter stored procedure is the one which will pass it as a input value. So to create an input parameter, we just need to pass a value here at the stored procedure name. I'll just create a parameter or variable will be designated with at the rate. I'll just use age and the data type is int, right? And I'll just pass this variable here. That's it. This is the input parameterized stored procedure. So while creating a stored procedure, we'll create one variable or parameter we can say, and we'll declare it as a what data it will hold. So here age, right? So it will be int as begin select column list from table where employee age equals to at the rate age. See whatever the value which will pass from the outside, that value will get passed here. So I'll show you the example of it. So I'll create it. So I'm creating a stored procedure, invalid column EH. So which table we are referring here? Employee, right? So EMPAG it is. Okay, yeah. So let me create a stored procedure. So created. So once I create a stored procedure, if I need to execute, the syntax is exec space the stored procedure name. Do you think it will work, guys?
No.
It will not work. Why? Because we have an input parameter for this. Earlier, the stored procedure, we didn't create any input parameter as stored procedure. It is just the plain stored procedure. All right. So that's why if you execute followed by the stored procedure name, it got executed. But for this, we need to pass the input value. So for the input value, we just need to pass it from here, just give space and then give the value. That's it. So I'm passing 20 as employee age for this variable. So if I execute, this 20 will get passed into this query here, background only in the stored procedure, and then it will get executed the select statement. That's it. Clear? Now you can see the data with only employee age 20 has been retrieved. Okay. If I change it to some other, let's say 25. See, whatever the age which is there in the table, only those values you can enter. Other than that, no. If let's say if I give it here 50, then it will be 0 records. Why? Because age 50 records are not there on the table. See, whatever the user will pass the age here, only that related data will be retrieved from the SQL query. Simple, guys. The stored procedure concept itself is simple, but the whatever the code which you are returning within the stored procedure is matters. Whether it's a complex code you are writing or whether it's a simple logic you are writing, right? So that matters. Okay. I think this is the basics of stored procedure, guys, and we'll continue tomorrow with the stored procedure concept again. So try to practice it and try to read out the theoretical part of indexes and try to practice the sample stored procedure which I told today, and then we'll continue the stored procedures tomorrow. I think tomorrow whole 1 hour we'll spend on stored procedures only. Okay, we'll try different examples. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for joining, and if you have any concerns, you can message me on WhatsApp. Okay, and we'll connect tomorrow.